Okay, so it is time to clean my electroforming solution with my brand new weird invention that I made. So you get to see it too. Yay. Okay, let's take you off this tripod and kind of look at the solution. Ooh. Right? It's actually not that bad, but here's what my other tank is looking like after I used this thing on it, and you get to see it out. So I have a 5 micron whole house filter, a carboy in order to hold the solution, and what I'm going to do is suck out all the old solution out of this tank. So we'll start that process first. Both hands to do that. So this is the suction hose. So I'm going to start out by just clamping that into position. Okay, now I don't need my hands anymore. So. Eventually, when it gets low, I'm going to be vacuuming out the bottom. Alright, so we switch this over to vacuum and turn off the return. Then, come down here and turn on the vacuum. Turn off the return. So this is a vacuum pump. Here's the vacuum pump I'm using, the model number. And there it goes, filling the carboy with liquid. You can see the cleaning of it. That tube is so long because it has to be able to reach all 3 of my tanks. As you can see, it fills the carboy up pretty fast. So I'm going to let this fill. And then I'm just going to use this same hose to vacuum out the bottom. And then I'll show you how I return it. Okay, so the return is a hose. And I'll show you how that works once I get you off the tripod. So that's the return hose. It's above where the liquid would be. So the liquid comes to about right here. You want this hose to be quite a bit above because you don't want air to shoot into acid. Trust me. Okay, so to turn on the return, I make sure the suction's off. The return is on. turn off the vacuum, turn on the return. And this is an airbrush pump. You want something very low PSI, absolutely like 3 PSI, maybe 5 PSI, no more. This is just to start the vacuum. Okay, so let's turn that on. And you can see it rising up in the air, then going down the return, and heading back into the tank. Once it starts returning, I can actually turn the PSI down a little bit. But since that's a nice airbrush pump, once it gets to a certain PSI, it actually turns off. So if you had a regular airbrush pump, it wouldn't do that. This is a silent air compressor. So it's got a tank in the back that holds a slight amount of the air, and you can see it's like, again, 1 to 2 PSI or something like that. But the tank's got that much in it. It's relatively old. So, would you have to do this? No, actually, you know what? I just got bored with electroforming stuff, and I really wanted a way of cleaning out my tank. And I have been playing around with different methods for a while. This is just something I kind of cooked up based upon a wine racking video. So wine racking is the ability of filtering wine. And what they use is whole house filters and a thing called a carboy. That piece of plastic that goes in is called a racking cane. And this is just a pouch that is suspended by that hook up there. I forget what they call the nipple thing, but I will put a link to all of this stuff in the video show notes. These are 3/8 to 3/8, 3/8 to 3/8. This is a 3/8. These are barbed connections. 3/8 to 3/8. And this is a T, a 3/8 T. Barbed connection on the other side. This is 1/4 inch tubing. The difference between the tubing is this is vinyl. So vinyl's a little bit easier, pliable to move around. This is, I think it's called polypropylene. It's a little stiffer, but it takes a lot of pressure, okay? Then this is where the air or vacuum is going to go in. And notice it doesn't go all the way in, it just goes into the lid. So it's pumping air or sucking air right here. So that way no liquid can go up into the pump. There's no way. These are 3-gallon tanks. So this is a 5-gallon carboy. There's no way, even if there was so much air building up, that liquid could ever go up there. But if you have too much pressure, what will happen is it'll build up pressure and then blow the hoses off. Trust me. When I first ran this thing, I didn't know how much PSI it would take. And yeah, it was quite messy, to be honest with you. Look how nice and clean that liquid is. Man, it's like ocean blue. So the return is kind of slow, but again, the return is probably the more dangerous. The suction isn't that bad. So keep the PSI down. This is how much crap that was in my tank. And had I used a carbon filter, and let's say I had a high chloride value, it might have got rid of some of that chloride if I had a high chloride in my tank. But it won't get rid of it all the way. You have to do a chemical stripping process to get rid of chloride. I did have a contamination problem too, and the way I was able to detect that is I was getting these really long strands appearing on my electroforming stuff. They're very long, they're kind of like hairs that kind of grow out, and really long texture growing out. That was a good indication that I was getting a contamination error. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed. The rest is just draining back into the tank, but I wanted to show you my cool little electroforming tank cleaning device. Patent pending. So, have a good one.